The following procedure was used to determine the volume of a flask. The flask was weighed dry and then filled with water. If the masses of the empty flask and filled flask were 56.12 grams and 87.39 grams respectively, and the density of water is 0.9976 grams per cubic centimeters, calculate the volume of the flask in cubic centimeters. So here, imagine you have an empty flask. So let's draw here an empty flask. And the problem says the mass of the empty flask is 56.12 grams. And then you filled the flask with water. The entire flask, you filled it with water. And now the mass of the flask with water is now 87.39 grams. Okay, so what can you get from these information? You can actually get the mass of water. So that's just 87.39 grams minus 56.12 grams. So the mass of water is equal to 31.27 grams. So now that you have the mass of water, we can now go to the formula for density. Density is equal to mass over volume. The problem is asking for the volume. So we can rearrange this equation to get the volume. That is just mass over density. Okay, so the volume is equal to, we already know the mass of water, that's 31.27 grams, divided by the density of water is also given, that's 0.9976 grams per cubic centimeters. So as you can see, the grams here will cancel out. So your unit is cubic centimeters. And if you solve this in your calculator, you will get approximately 31.35 cubic centimeter. So the volume of the water in the flask, which is also equal to the volume of the flask, because remember, the entire flask was filled with water, therefore the volume of the water is also equal to the volume of the flask. That is 31.35 cubic centimeter. So that is the answer to the problem.